Hey, I'm Nigella.
And I'm in Gaza.
And we're a couple from Brooklyn, New York, but we've been living abroad for 5 years now in Europe, Latin America, and Asia. But we're back living in Brooklyn for the summer.
And this is episode 6 of our conversation series about our experiences abroad. This episode is going to be about our new life in Koh Phangan and settling into a new normal. So for today's first question, how are you feeling going into the new year?
Bringing in a new year in Thailand was bittersweet. On one end, it's like, oh my God, it's New Year 2020. Great things happening, hopeful, joy. I have a great partner. I'm in a tropical island, a new place. I'm in Thailand, living a dream.
Yeah.
But on the other end, I was sad because I missed my dad, which kind of carried over to my birthday.
And it was challenging because anytime you have a parent that you lose, those big emotional moments bring up the most, like the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, all that is really tough.
But we had a beautiful moment that evening. We were on our porch and we saw the fireworks. I don't know where they were having the fireworks, but we could see it through the water.
I remember thinking it was Koh Samui, but now understanding our orientation, it wasn't Koh Samui.
No.
It could have been Koh, but I'm just not sure if Koh was visible that far off. So I don't know where it was because technically speaking, it was the Antong National Park. So I'm not really sure. Antong? I don't know. Also for me, I think it was pretty interesting going into a new year. And this was the second time I'd experienced outside of living in California that it was warm. And not only just warm and not snowing, but it was in the tropics. So seeing a Christmas tree or Christmas lights, it was just really off-brand. Having Christmas in the tropics or holidays in the tropics, even if I fast forward the last few years that we've not lived in cold places, it's just been interesting because your association with those seasons are like being bundled up. And
it hits different when you're like in a warm place.
Yeah, right? Like having cookies or like, watching
Chocolate.
movies, A Christmas Story, all that stuff with family or Thanksgiving.
Eggnog.
It's always associated with being cold. So the tropics was definitely a different feel and it kind of almost feels like it's always the same season.
It does.
It's either raining or it's not.
Something that came up in the new year was our visa situation. Our short-term visa is ending and we decided we wanted to stay longer.
Yeah.
How are we going to stay longer? What are we going to do? And then Gaza really took the lead on that. I wasn't as present emotionally. I think I was like, I don't even know. I'm tired. I don't know how I got here. He really took the helm and was figuring out options for us.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So it was a bit challenging because we got the 2 months of visa on arrival when we first arrived in Thailand and we got the extension for the 3rd month, but we were just like, hey, if we want to stay longer, what's going on? How are we going to do that? So Najee sort of handled some of the online stuff in terms of research and deployed me. I started going to visit different lawyers, asking different questions, talking to different expats, seeing if I could get some information about where to go. And we eventually settled on this lawyer named Pina.
Pina was amazing. We also were thinking about doing an education visa. So we went to a school to ask her like what the different programs were and the cost.
Oh yeah, we did. We went to the school that was not too far from where we lived. It was on Middle Road, I believe.
So they're going to have my passport. They're going to have the passport.
Oh, that makes sense.
They
That makes
have to
sense.
extend.
Yeah.
To extend. If you go yourself, you have to waste your time.
So we went to a school trying to figure out education visas, volunteer visas. We even looked into like business visa stuff. And we were just trying to figure out all of our options and trying to see what would be the option for the longest term stay. And the option that we wanted to choose wasn't something that we obviously wanted to do a ton of work for. And we wanted to be able to stay the longest amount of time. So in the end, when we went with the lawyer Pina, she created a solution that had us basically go into Malaysia to sort our paperwork out and then come back to Thailand.
Our next question is, how did you start to get more comfortable and at home in Phangan? So Phangan, I was 30 years old, going through my Saturn return.
Smack that.
Tough, but also it made me go really deeper within myself and think about, myself as a woman, things about my body, my confidence. So I ended up taking a pole dancing and stretching class.
Yeah.
With this amazing teacher, a Russian gymnast coach.
Yeah, she was dope. Maria.
She's a dancer, ballet teacher extraordinaire. And I did all these intensive, like one-on-one and group pole dancing and stretching classes with her.
And now you sit. Bend your knees. Hold them straight, pushing. Yes, Nigella, very well. Hold it straight. You feel the deeper one?
Yes, I feel it.
Arm straight, butt down. Yes.
And Gaza joined in as well at a certain point.
With the stretching classes.
With the stretching classes.
The stretching classes were super intense. I remember all these like back bends and like splits we were working on. That was crazy.
Yeah, we were getting flexible.
Yeah.
But it was good for me to start becoming more my body. And then I was feeling more comfortable being on the island because of that too.
And you made a few friends. I think you met Morgan.
Yeah, I made a friend. One of my friends, Morgan, from the US. From New Orleans, and she ended up taking classes with us, but she ended up being in Thailand for a couple months, so that was really nice and familiar.
Yeah, to connect with her. She was cool. So something I did to get myself comfortable was repurchasing a guitar That was challenging, trying to figure out where the music shops were. I think I took a quick trip to Koh Samui.
We bought your guitar.
Yeah, we bought it in Koh Samui, trying to figure out like what was the best price, highest quality. And I just finished my first guitar lessons in Brooklyn. I did like 3 or 4 guitar lessons, bought my first guitar, but sold it before we left. And my plan was to practice lessons from Justin Guitar online, like a free course. And I was also in search for a teacher.
As I started becoming more comfortable on the island, I ventured more and more outside the house. We went out more at night, like to street markets, different festivals, or cultural events that were happening on the island. It's really for Thai people, but they didn't mind if like there were foreigners watching. That was good to start to feel a little bit more like integrated, not a part of the culture because I'm not Thai and it's really hard. I don't speak the language, but to feel as if I'm not as much on the outside, like really appreciating and trying to see what they do and how they live their life. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was dope.
Kunchu arai kap. Kunchu arai kap.
Something I also did to get comfortable on the island was to take the motorbike, and my goal was literally to get lost. I know I can't like drive out the country, right? Because it's an island. But so many of the roads didn't exist on Google Maps.
No.
Or maybe there was a road on Google Maps that was like cut off or flooded out or something like that. It was super muddy, you had to go around. So my goal was always to try to find a new place and explore. And that was really fun. Trying to just make connections in a mental map of like where I am and to sort of grasp it. One of the realizations, which is opposite of what I said in the last episode, of feeling like it was small on the boat when we were approaching, is that the island was huge, right?
So dense.
Like it was so dense. There were so many places you couldn't get to. There's a whole part of the island that's a national park. Yeah, and that was one of the things that really stood out to me. Something else I noticed during my early morning gym visits around 5 or 6 a.m. when I would try to get out before anyone else was out, was that there were monks that were always walking and like ringing this bell and saying these prayers. That was probably one of the coolest cultural experiences that I noticed on Thailand, was seeing these monks walk and basically get food. They would perform a prayer at each doorstep. Person would come with food and say the prayers with them, and they would just continue to walk forward with no shoes on. You might see like a stray dog around them because they would always feed the dogs as well. So that was just incredible, just sort of seeing that humility and that practice and something that you see depicted on TV, but there's this hidden part behind it that you've never really experienced, and know that like, yeah, the monks literally go get food and people have their incense lit and the photos, and just the spiritual significance of that was really incredible to see. Okay, so next we're going to discuss the border run process in Kota Bharu, Malaysia. So as I mentioned, we decided to go with our lawyer, Pina, and the first thing we had to do was fill out a ton of paperwork. We had to pay her. Then we had to figure out how to book our trip to get down to Malaysia. So were we going to take the bus? Were we going to get a ride?
Hot yow.
Where we're gonna take the train, and we eventually wound up taking the train. So that was a really cool experience. It was our first time leaving the actual country and seeing the similarities and differences, but that train ride was really comfortable.
Sleeper train.
Yeah, we took a sleeper train.
I was knocked out. We were so tired. It was such a long journey.
And it was comfy. Like I just remember being rocked to sleep by like the train. And surprisingly, I could fit inside my cubicle. You were on the top bunk, right?
I was on the top bunk. He was knocked out.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool experience. Our lawyer hooked us up with this really cool Malaysian guy that would help complete her visa process with her clients. His name was Fikri. Remember
he became like a friend. Fikri.
Yeah, he was super cool.
He would take us around. We would eat together, get coconuts, go to different parts of the city.
Yeah, he was our driver.
So Malaysia was beautiful. I mean, I didn't have any expectations of it. I didn't know where to place it in my head. I remember always hearing about Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
So that's the place that had the skyscrapers and, you know, this huge metropolis. So Kota Bharu is a Muslim city right into Thailand, more conservative, I think. But we had a beautiful time there. I felt so comfortable.
It was super peaceful.
It was peaceful. Yeah. It was really clean. The streets were like orderly. Even the mechanic shop. Mechanic shops everywhere are notorious for being disgusting and disorganized. And there, everything was very orderly. There were no stray dogs.
Yes, that's a good point.
The people were really, really nice.
Can we have fruit?
Yes.
How much?
No, it's
Free.
for like VIP arrival.
Yeah, I got the VIP right. Bed's nice. TV's litty. Okay, so you got a whole apartment.
The food was phenomenal.
The food was so good. It really felt like, I'm like, what set of West Indians came here 1,000 years ago and started cooking with y'all?
That's funny.
I really felt like I was eating Caribbean food. The food was delicious.
My favorite food that we had at that point in Southeast Asia was Malaysian curries and the nasi something. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, it was so good. I forgot the name too, but it's really good.
It was good.
I remember that we visited this mall. It was like super modern. And again, this speaks to when you leave your country, you sort of always have to shift out of that main character energy. Sheep?
Why are they there? They're wild.
Oh my gosh, there are people just living their life and everything's super normal here and they have access to the same things that I have access to. So that was a pretty humbling experience and also eye-opening. Something else that stood out to me was every time you saw a Malaysian family, it was 3 generations. Yeah. You saw the grandparents, the parents, and the grandkids.
So nice.
And you saw everyone like holding hands, everybody has on a hijab, everyone's like calm and pleasant. So it was just like a very comfortable, homey, warm place in Kota Bharu. Even the fruit market that we went to, all the cab rides, everyone just had like a really chill energy and chill vibe. Yeah.
Last thing about the mall, I remember in the mall there were so many stores for women to buy like undergarments.
Yeah,
like
that was
everywhere.
Interesting.
There was so many.
And remember that funny festival they had? They had that funny little like dancing robot
and
thing.
the mall was really cool. The kids were like dancing and cutting up.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. That was a cool experience.
So the last question is, what was the house search process like? So we discussed at Moon Villa, the place that we stayed at for like a couple months when we first got to Phangan wasn't suitable as a long-term home.
Yeah.
The house that we were staying wasn't functional for 2 people.
Yeah,
we needed more space.
Yeah.
We needed something that we can really spread out in. So in Gaza, Valiant in Gaza, started the process of finding us a home. And he will talk about how arduous that was.
Yeah, that process was a struggle. So it was a lot harder than we thought it would be. Again, the initial YouTube research, looking up things and learning things from people who aren't in your exact situation was tough. They were split into 2 main categories. First off, you would have beautiful villas that were ridiculously expensive. And it also felt like the other long-term options were sometimes limited to like just bungalows or like Najee mentioned, like hostels and stuff. So to find like a perfect like 1 or 2 bedroom space with like a couch and a TV and a simple porch that wasn't surrounded by so many villas and that wasn't super expensive was really hard. In Thailand, it's very different because there isn't like a Zillow or like rent.com or Craigslist. There isn't any online resource to find homes and rentals. So literally when you see a for rent sign one day,
go check it out.
Go check it out because you might motorbike right past that spot and be like, oh, I should check that out. And the for rent sign is gone and you see someone moving in.
So that was different for us because we generally found our homes before on Craigslist or we would go to like real estate brokers or online. But everyone would say, no, in Thailand, if you see a for rent sign,
go inquire.
Go inquire. That's how you find a place. You see a sign, you go in, you do a tour, you sign the deal or not, and then that's how it is.
Yeah. Everything definitely was owner rentals and having to kind of communicate with the owners. And that was draining physically because I had to ride around the island and go into new places I've never gone to, really trying to inquire and ask questions. And sometimes it would be scary because there would be like dogs there, like barking at you. You're not really sure if the dog is friendly or if they're just trying to play. It was like, so it was exhausting trying to find places. But time after time after time, you would see signs everywhere. And we did a ton of visits. So we visited houses, we connected with people, we walked on different tours, we got information, we drove to different parts of the island. We tried to assess how close everything was to like Macro and Tesco versus like near the Pan Tip Market. Just basically trying to orient ourselves with the gym, the supermarket, how far our commute would be. And it was really challenging trying to get that setup going. And we also looked up countless Airbnbs as well. We tried to do that route, but that always seemed to be a bit more detached and far more expensive. So we didn't go with that route.
The real mattress.
It's all good. Use the mushroom same.
Okay. Oh, this is nice.
Oh, perfect.
And it's white.
I like this one. Nice.
And what's this? What's this right here?
Oh, the porch.
Really? Yeah. From the bedroom? Yeah. Wow. It's super private too.
And eventually we met a guy named Mark.
He saved our life.
I know, Mark is our guy. This Russian dude named Mark, super cool. He was tight with the original motorbike people we got hooked up with. Yeah, right? And I found Mark one day just going on a tour, and he just gave me some information. I exchanged numbers with him, and it turns out that him and are like really tight and they're cool.
So that was like a vibe check because was incredible to us and so sweet and friendly.
Yeah.
So when Mark was like, no, that's my people's, and was like, that's my people.
Yeah,
like, oh my God,
and eventually we also did our laundry with too.
We did our laundry with yeah.
She had like a one-stop shop.
It was nice.
You get everything there. She was in Switzerland. She's the OG. So eventually we found the perfect place sometime in mid-January, and that lease wouldn't be able to start till March 1st. And we had to take a second trip to Malaysia to get stuff sorted with paperwork. So
we needed a transition place.
And then we met Coney at Wat Phan Threep. So we lived at this place called Wat Phan Threep. It was a really nice little village that had like a few houses set up and like a pool.
Very upkept.
And it was nice. It was a good in-between until we had to actually move into Dome Village, which would be our long-term house.
In Wat Phan Peak, for example, I had my 30th birthday there, which I didn't celebrate. I don't even remember what we did that day.
I know, that was
Probably
tough.
sad about my dad again. Hey, pussy. But it was more comfortable because we had an actual living space, like a living room area, and then we had a separate bedroom, a separate bathroom, and a kitchen all inside.
Yeah. We also had this really nice like basement type thing where we set up our hammock and we could kind of swing in the shade, and it was like a pool. So it was pretty nice. There were also a lot of other Russian families, and they had like their babies running around, you know, in the pools and playing and stuff. So it was pretty cool. It was a nice.
It felt more neighborly.
Yeah, it definitely was more neighborly. I liked it a lot.
One last thing about finding a place was that we didn't want a place that was super modern because we don't require it to be super modern.
Yeah.
But we wanted a place that was complete and upkept well. It was hard to find that. Like we'll find a place that was upkept okay, but it had a good kitchen and bathroom, but it was kind of like needed to be power washed. So that didn't work. Yeah. Or we'll find a place that was super clean and upkept well, but the
wrong location.
The wrong location, or the kitchen wasn't upkept well. But finally we landed on Dome Village.
I know, it was perfect. It was like isolated. It was like sea view.
We got so lucky.
Porch. It was 2 bedrooms.
And the house was thoughtfully planned out.
It was.
Churi put a lot of energy into designing the home.
Churi's dope.
We had a front yard.
Yeah, it was really nice.
We had a water view.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We had also the mountain view as well. So it was like a perfect place situated in the middle of the island.
Perfect.
But just off the main road, it was tucked into a nook, and it was essentially on her family's farm. So she had coconut trees on one side, then it was the big road, then there were more coconut trees.
Lots of cashew trees.
Yeah, the cashew trees, and it would smell super good when they were in blossom.
And behind our house it was just forest because the people, they didn't want to develop the land. So there was so much privacy, which is not normal because most houses are very close to other houses, which it can get really annoying with noise and just privacy in general.
She also had chickens, and I'm pretty sure the water that we got came from a well that was filtered with like ozone filter, all this stuff. The water quality was great. It was just dope. It was a really good experience. And we got so lucky with that house.
We're just about to move into Dome Village.
Moving out the crib.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything.
Okay, see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.
And get comfortable finally.
Yep.
We kind of know our visa situation, and then the whole world changes.
Yeah.
And life as we know it will never be the same.
Dun, dun, dun. And we have no idea what was in store for us because the pandemic was about to hit. Everything would change as we knew it moving forward.
Yeah. But that will be episode 7.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us today. We're out. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Bye.
You getting bit though?
Yeah, I don't see them.
I know.
They're like leaving battle wounds.
I know.